I don't know if I even feel the music right now that I'm hearing in my here in my podcast. I spent most of the night, for all of you out there. I think you know what I'm going to be talking about right now. Awake after leaving Washington D.C. Yesterday, when the peaceful protest turned into what was no other way to describe it but basically rioting up on Capitol Hill. It was stunning and dramatic and exhausting and confusing. And I think everybody has just been left feeling like something is drastically wrong in our nation. And I want to get to that in a little bit. First, I want to thank you all for listening to the Sara Carter Show. It's so important. Every single one of you that writes the show, that leaves reviews for the show, that leaves your message, give me your messages. Let me know what you want to hear. All of you are so important because we're all one country. We have been together through all of this for the last 4 years. I see you as the story. This is the story. You are the story, right? We have been talking about what's been happening to our nation now for 5 years. You have been there with me through the Russia hoax, through all of the exposure that we have put out there with regard to this White House, this administration, the incredible changes that have happened in our country. All of you are a part of that. We are all a part of that. It's important that we not forget that and that we stay together, each one of us, that we don't give up. We can't give up this fight. And I'm going to explain to you why we can't. And I'm going to explain to you and talk to you about what I've seen here in Washington. And I understand how you feel because I feel the same way you do. I feel it in my heart, in my bones, in every part of me. This enormous frustration with the direction our nation has taken. So anyways, for all of you out there, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. We're on YouTube. Make sure you get it wherever you get your podcasts. And I would love for you to follow me on Twitter. I know. Facebook. I know. We're going to talk about that too. And Parler. And you can get all those links at saracarter.com. Today's podcast is brought to you by AMAC. AMAC offers an alternative to just about every benefit that AARP offers, but without the liberal agenda, folks. Go to amac.us/Carter. That's CARTER and join today. Love to have AMAC. It's great to have them as a sponsor. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what happened yesterday. I wasn't able to sleep last night. Like many of you, we watched those scenes in horror. The horrific killing of an Air Force veteran, 14-year Air Force veteran, Ashley, on Capitol Hill, in the afternoon when the rioting began. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what it was like before. For all of you who weren't out there, remember there's 74 million Americans plus. All of us. People that support freedom, people that believe in liberty, people that are willing to stand up and say, no, we have a right to question what's happening here in our country. We have every right to do that. We have every right to question. We have every right to defend our Constitution. We have every right to call out our lawmakers who are not doing the job, who are not doing their jobs. But what happened yesterday and what transpired was frightening. It was a culmination of years. It wasn't something that just happened. It was a culmination of years of people not being listened to. Now, the people that crossed the line and broke the windows on the Capitol, took down the barricades, rolled over the Capitol Police, did whatever they wanted to get inside, looted, it was absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Prior to that happening, I was actually in Washington, D.C. with friends of mine. Gary Brugman was down here with friends of ours from Texas. He was the Border Patrol agent that was pardoned by President Donald Trump. He had spent, more than a decade of his life, or nearly almost 20 years, actually almost 2 decades, battling and trying to tell his story and trying to get the truth out there about what happened to him while he was a Border Patrol agent on the US-Mexico border. He was pardoned by President Trump. It was such a great moment for Gary. I've known him all of those years. I also know Ignacio Nacho Ramos and Jose Compean. So this is a very important story. It was a story that I wrote about over 14 years ago. We were downtown. There were people walking all in the streets, excited, MAGA supporters. People say, even with the loss, even with President-elect Joe Biden, people were coming together. They were there peacefully. They were there saying, look, we haven't given up. We want election reform. We want an investigation. We want to hear from our president. We want to be out here today. We want to be with each other. We want to be there to support each other because we believe in our country. And you could hear it. I had people saying, hello, Sara. Thank you so much. Hey, is that you? Is this Sara? Because, obviously I'm walking in the middle of these huge crowds. And I felt welcomed. I felt safe. I felt at home. There was a moment, though, however, as we were walking through the crowds, where you'd see people that didn't quite look like they were there for just a peaceful, protest. You see some people walking around. I didn't see many of them, but, they were helmets on their heads or knee pads or arm pads. You could just see that something was going on. You could feel it. Not a lot, just a little. Because there were, I have to assume, over 100,000 people there. It was just incredible. And we went to the White House, Gary Brugman and I and our friends. We went there to meet with someone at the White House. It felt empty. I don't even know how to explain this. The president wasn't there. In fact, when we walked up to the White House and we came into the entrance, the president had already left. We could see his motorcade, and it was heading actually towards the center of DC, like right up near where the Washington Monument was, where the big stage was. It was not too far from the White House, but enough so that he would be at the stage talking to the people. I could actually hear the president from where I was at outside of the White House. So we were listening a little bit to the president speak. We could hear him. It was at a distance. And then we went to the White House. And as we walked in, and now everything is shut down, even the Navy Mess, which is where it's real famous. It's where everybody goes to eat at the White House, and it's quite beautiful. I've been there once before. That's shut down. So now everything was basically being made and handed to people through their snack bar. It was like, I actually got the peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the White House. I know it sounds crazy. I have never eaten a peanut butter and jelly sandwich since I was maybe I was 8 years old. But I had the peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the White House because someone told me it was so good. And it really was. It was delicious. But the whole entire time I was there, the feeling that I got was this emptiness. The White House was empty. Nobody was hardly there. Most of the staff didn't even come in because there was so much concern early on about, the rally and would things turn violent, which brings me to the question of why the Capitol Police were so lackadaisical, it appeared, or at least as far as the security, and that the Mayor Bowser and others didn't implement what I believed should have been even more enhanced security around the U.S. Capitol. I see people on Twitter all the time talking right now about, we spend this many billions on our defense, but, 3 guys dressed up like Vikings or something were able to penetrate the U.S. Capitol and, stand and get there and do selfies inside some of the hearing rooms, right? I mean, how weird is that? And now we see what transpired and the horrors of that people actually lost their lives. People actually lost their lives. And I think about the past, and I think about the other incidences that happened. And the Federalist actually did this incredible story, and I'm going to actually pull it up right now. And it was a list of all of the rioting and all of the protests that the left had done that basically and I'll talk about this later in the podcast. But basically, they allowed it to happen, and they were like making, oh, wow, there was a reason for these riots. There was a reason for burning these buildings down and these businesses down and shutting off, Portland, shutting off the city and creating their own zone, right? In the middle of Portland, and doing whatever they wanted in Seattle and in Kenosha. But wait a minute. You have people here supporting MAGA, waving American flags, coming out. Most of the people that I saw, they were older or they had older children, and there was nobody that I actually saw with my own eyes that was actually out there to start a riot. I didn't see those people. Like I said, I saw some people with helmets and other things, and there was a concern for me. But it was not what I believed was going to happen. Not that day, because I got there at around 10 a.m. and then I went to the White House. And then when I got ready to leave, and when I did leave, that is when everything started to happen up at the Capitol building. And I want to pull this up. But first, before I go any further, I want to talk to you a little bit about some New Year's resolutions of mine, and that's to get healthier. And we all need to get healthier. And I'm going to tell you, there is nothing better than Super Beets heart chews. This is incredible stuff. If you're looking for a way to institute some healthy habits and improve your lifestyle this year, you need to get these Super Beets heart chews. They are delicious. Just 2 Super Beet heart chews per day give you the cardiovascular support, and they actually promote healthy energy that you'll need to chase down all your goals and get your job done. Super Beets Heart Chews combines non-GMO beets and clinically researched grape seed extract. It's shown to be 2 times as effective at supporting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. And now you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews, plus a free 30-day supply of their new delicious flavor, Super Grapes, with your first purchase by going to superbeets.com/Carter. That's 2 free gifts valued at over $50, only available at getsuperbeets.com/Carter. That's getsuperbeets.com/Carter. I want to get back to telling you what happened, but at the protest, which turned into riots here on Capitol Hill, and the concern that I have that we are a nation that is so divided, and I don't believe we're going to go back to being who we were. Not the GOP, not our nation. We are at a crossroads. And this is for President Trump. I talked to you. I said I could hear him at the distance. Eventually, I actually read through and saw some of the transcripts of what the president said. And I know he was very hard-hitting on Vice President Mike Pence. And shortly after we saw what happened and what transpired, I think this is a time, and I have been and I am an ardent supporter of President Donald Trump and what he's been able to do for our nation, because I believe that he does care about freedom. He does care about us. He cares about what was happening. It's the reason he was the president that didn't have a war in the last 4 years, didn't send our men and women off to war in the way that we've seen in past presidencies. He's the same person that fought for the embassy to move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He said he would do it, and he did it. He's the same president that had the lowest unemployment for minorities in the United States ever. For Black Americans, for Latin, for Hispanic Americans, the lowest. And he cares about every single one of us. But yesterday was something different happened. Something transpired. And I'm not going to do what other people have done. I'm not throwing President Trump under the bus. What I'm saying is that President Trump, you need right now, because you are the only one that can do this, to take a step back and talk to the American people directly, because the movement is bigger than all of us. It is bigger than you. It is bigger than me. It is the only thing that will actually save our nation in the future. This movement for freedom and for our country and to fight for our nation, for liberty. This movement is up against what we have never seen in the past, a progressive leftist socialist movement in this country that will fundamentally change our nation forever. The Senate has gone. The Senate is now with the Dems. That's it. That's it. I said on Laura Ingram's show, what I'm stunned with is that someone like Reverend Warnock, right? That someone like Ossoff could actually be that close in a run for the Senate seat. People who actually believe in socialism. People who are actually so progressive that they will fundamentally change this nation forever. And you watch what's going to happen over the next year. President Trump needs to turn over the reins, work with the party, but give those reins to somebody young, somebody that you support, somebody that will lead the party with you. And the idea we cannot afford for this to continue. Our nation right now is at a crossroads of fundamental change. Only now can we take a step back, and we have to. We can't have any more scenes. We can't tear each other apart. The only way we are going to win this, is for people who believe in liberty and freedom to do the right thing, to fight this with our Constitution and with each other, to be able to stand up and rebuild this party. I don't know if it will never be the same GOP. That's over with. And for anybody up there on Capitol Hill, the American people are sick of you. They are sick of your lies. They are sick of being talked down to. They are tired and they see right through it. We've seen what the media has done. Let me show you something. This is what's so disgusting to me. I want to play you some clips, and I want you to realize, folks, that they are trying to manipulate us. They are trying to divide us. And I think it's far beyond. Our enemies overseas see what is happening in our country, and they are actually taking advantage of that. They are playing us. We cannot let them do that. That's why it's so imperative that President Trump do the right thing. We need to build unity. We need to support one another. We cannot be selfish here. We cannot be selfish. We can't have incidents like what happened. We cannot have those, because those incidents, like what we saw up on Capitol Hill and the death of that poor Air Force veteran, by the way, which needs to be absolutely investigated, because I saw the video and it looked like whoever that was with the gun in his hand, whatever Capitol Police officer had that weapon, it looks like he just shot her. Straight up. Jonathan Gillum posted the video on his Twitter feed, and you could see the guy with the gun, and you could see him just shoot her. Jonathan Gillum's a former Navy SEAL. He's very outspoken, and has hosted Sean Hannity's show a number of times and other shows, and he's a friend of mine. And when I saw that, I was stunned. But we cannot afford that in our country right now. We are trying to save our nation from not only internal changes that are threatening to change this country forever, but external as well. I know you're frustrated. I'm frustrated. I know so many of you are like, look, I don't even want to vote again because I feel like there was election fraud. I feel like it was stolen from me. You know what? I know how you feel. But you tell me how we win this battle if we don't stand up for one another and stand up for what is right in this nation. I want to talk to you a little bit about Ashley Babbitt. She was the woman that was shot. She was the Air Force 14-year veteran, 4 tours of duty. Her life has to mean something. We should all be praying for her family. Her life absolutely has to mean something. I want to play a clip. This is Senator Lindsey Graham on the Senate floor. I want you to hear this.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it to end this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see, all I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
He's frustrated. I get that. People believe that, he's throwing President Trump under the bus. I don't know. I don't hardly trust anyone in Washington anymore. I've been here a long time, and I have seen a lot of backstabbing, things that I could never imagine people doing to one another, toying with people's lives, the lies, the disinformation campaigns, people inside our bureaucracy that have become so powerful that they've become more powerful than even the president of the United States. Look at what they've done. They didn't want him. The establishment never wanted us, not for 1 second, to have President Trump in the position of power that he was in. That was like such a fluke for them. They were just freaking out. How many times did we hear about, we're going to invoke the 25th. We're going to get the president removed. We're going to invoke the 25th. We got to impeach him. We're going to impeach him. Oh, God, he said something. We're going to impeach him. They wanted to impeach him. Impeach. Don't I sound like Maxine Waters now? That's all you could hear. And guess what? And the news media, they were right behind it. Oh, headlines. They're going to invoke the 25th. We see that all the time now. And now Lindsey Graham, he's on the Senate floor. He's like, I just can't take it anymore. We have to end this. But Senator Graham and all of these other senators for the last 4 years, with the exception of a few people like Ron Johnson or Chuck Grassley, and okay, Graham did some, but they made promises to the American people that they were going to investigate these bureaucracies that weaponized the FBI, weaponized the intelligence community, and gave power to people that literally trampled all over our Constitution. And they want the American people to be like, oh, okay, everything's fine, nothing to see here, let's just move on. No, we can't just move on. It doesn't mean that we do that we trample all over Capitol Hill and we threaten law enforcement. That is not the America that I know. That is not the America that I love. Not right now. We have a lot of options. We have people that are willing to fight for this country. We are willing to stand up and tell the truth. But we can only do it if we are unified. And guess what? The GOP is not unified. The GOP does not care. That's what's wrong with that whole party. They do not defend each other. They are broken. Lindsey Graham can go up there and say that, listen to Senator Loeffler right now. She lost, but listen to her.
When I arrived in Washington this morning, I fully intended to object to the certification of the electoral votes. However, the events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors. The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct attack on the very institution my objection was intended to protect.
What? So that's all it takes, right? We'll throw out the baby with the bathwater. Just throw it all out. Don't defend anything. Don't stand up to nothing. The Democrats didn't do that. I want you to hear Chris Cuomo condoning the summer riots, right? This is Chris Cuomo and CNN. It's a completely different story. I was there in Washington, D.C., folks, for the majority of the day. None of that craziness was happening. I still think that the Capitol Police and the mayor and everybody else needs to answer as to why it got so out of control, right? And I think the people that participated in it need to be arrested. They need to go to jail. And we need to find out what happened What happened with that poor woman, Ashley Babbitt, who was shot by U.S. Capitol Police? We need to know the truth, and they need to answer those questions. But does that mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater? Is that what we're doing? We're saying, okay, well, now that happened, we can't look into any allegations of election fraud. We have to pretend that none of that happened. We have to mea culpa, move on and let the Democrats and everybody else do whatever they want with our country. Really? That's why Senator Loeffler, that's why she lost. She didn't connect. She wasn't connecting with the people. The GOP has forgotten what it means to connect with the people. I'm telling you the truth. It's the reason why President Trump won in 2016. Everybody was like, the establishment was so freaked out. They were so confused. How did this happen? How did this man win? We always pick who you guys are going to pick, right? Now we know that. Now we know what the truth is. That we really are just, we're just like little chess pieces for them. They love this place. This Washington, D.C. swampland that they line their pockets with. They ignore us. They live in bubbles. Listen to Chris Cuomo. The difference between how CNN and the news media has reported what happened in Washington, D.C. when every single Trump rally I've ever been to prior to this has been peaceful. But listen to how they reported on the riots in all the Democratic cities over the summer when people lost lives too. So I want to think about them. But listen to how Chris Cuomo reported and condoned these summer riots.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets. Persistent and poisonous inequities and injustice. And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Can you just listen to that? Don't be fooled by the lies. See, what they're counting on, the disinformation campaigns are like psyops operations that the military uses overseas. This is what they do against enemies. They play you. They expect you to forget about what they reported on and how they're reporting it. And when you see this, you have this emotional tie to it, right? So you're thinking like, oh my gosh, look at what's going on in Washington. It's like you're right there. It's like, look at these MAGA rioters. Holy cow. Look at what Chris Cuomo is saying about them. Look at the difference in how they reported, even the chyrons. The chyrons, the little ticker tape at the bottom while you're watching the news. There's one right here. It's so crazy, but it was a CNN one. And it says, fiery but mostly peaceful protests after police shooting. I believe this was in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So there's a reporter standing there and there is fire. Like they set businesses on fire. And CNN was still saying it was peaceful protests. You need to think about how they play us and you every single day. And we need to say it is unacceptable. And we need to think about the future of our nation and our children and our grandchildren and what we are actually protecting and future generations of Americans and people all around the world that look to our nation as a beacon of light. Yes, for those of you who are big Obama, Biden supporters, we are a beacon of light to other nations. I know you don't believe that. I know you think we're like third world nothing, that we should be leading from behind, that we are the reason for every problem on planet Earth. They really do believe that, guys. They really do believe that. That's why President Obama had the big apology tour. That's why they don't care what they did to our nation for the last 4 years and expect you to forget about it. Expect you to forget that they basically targeted this president, President Donald Trump, for 4 years and everyone around him while they manipulated intelligence, weaponized every bureaucracy in the United States government to try to destroy him. And eventually they did. And we cannot say that it was all them too. I mean, President Trump was at fault in certain things. He just was. Everybody's responsible here. Everybody. But now is the time for us to think beyond that. It's to think like way beyond that. Like, how do I separate myself from my emotions right now and do the best thing that I can for my country and for our people? And right now, we need to take a step back. And the President Trump, who I have fought and defended, needs to do the same. He needs to do what is best now for the American people, for all Americans, not just conservatives, for all Americans. We need to be the beacon of light to one another. We need to stop this, because if we don't, it is going to get far worse than we can ever imagine. This could be the beginning of something so horrible that our nation will never recover, not for decades. We need to start using common sense. And President Trump, you need to turn over the reins of this party to leadership that will work with you, but you need to turn it over, and we need to move forward. We need to keep the idea of MAGA alive. And we need to pray. I have hope. I believe that our nation will survive this. I believe that, as bad as this seems right now, that you can't destroy the idea of freedom. You just can't. It's not even just about America. It's about it's human right. It's a human right. And when the political system becomes so big that it wants to control its people, that it wants to limit our freedoms and our liberty, that people always stand up and rise against that. But we can't be blinded, and we can't tear each other apart. And we all have to work together. And don't for 1 second let these leftist socialists manipulate you either. Whether you're an independent Democrat, a Republican, a liberal, whatever you want to call yourself, remember that there are enemies of our system, of what we believe in, of our ideals. And that is what we need to be watching out for. We can't be blinded by what has happened. We can't be blinded by the lies in the media. Together, I believe we are going to get through this. In fact, together, I know we'll get through this. It's been a tough time. It's going to get a lot tougher. Let's not desert each other. Let's find a way to be together. Let's be Americans, and let's stand up to this. We have fought too long and too hard for this country, and we need to be that beacon of light again for the rest of the world. Thank you so much for following the Sara Carter Show. You've all been great. I love you so much. I will be at the border next week. I hope you hear what I have to say. There's a lot of things still happening in our world that we need to keep reporting on, that we need to keep telling you. The truth is there. We just have to be willing to see it. We can't be afraid to stand up and to tell the truth and to defend those that need defending. I'm not giving up, and neither should you. God bless.